Hi guys, Carthenian here. I've decided over the next couple of weeks to release a series of videos on learning how to fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I'm a bit of a flight sim veteran myself, having played the series a lot as a kid from the late 90s into the early 2000s, up until around the release of Flight Simulator 10. I recently decided to come back to the series with the release of Flight Simulator 2020, and I've been loving it, but I gotta face it, I do need to brush up on my skills. So I figured, why not share the process with the YouTube community? It might be kind of fun for us to learn together. Now, as we know, Flight Sim does come packed with a series of lessons, but I found these to be vastly insufficient, especially when you compare them to the older versions of the Sim. The older versions of the Sim just gave us a plethora of both ground school and flight lessons, and although Microsoft does seem to be continuing to add to the current lessons, they certainly are taking their time, so we might as well just get started on our own and see how far we can get. Now, we'll be starting from the very beginning, and I'm going to assume that no one here knows anything about aviation, planes, or any of that kind of stuff. That being said, I'm also going to be avoiding going too in depth with theory and ground school stuff so we can just focus on the flying. Now, just a couple of disclaimers. I'm basically throwing together these tutorials based on lessons from the previous versions of the sim, as well as some various tidbits I find around the net. I'm not a real pilot, and this information shouldn't be taken too seriously and obviously not applied to the real world in any kind of way. We'll be learning together. These videos will be heavily edited, and I'm bound to make a lot of mistakes both in my sim flying and some of the facts I prattle on about. So feel free to comment, correct, and discuss as much as you'd like. I'm playing on a copy of the premium deluxe version of the sim, but I'll do my best to keep the videos based on the standard version without any add-ons, just to make it easier for everyone to be able to follow along. So all you'll probably need to get started is a standard copy of the game and really just an Xbox controller. I'm using a yoke, throttle quadrant, and rudder pedals myself, so I don't actually know how practical it would be to play with just a gamepad, but I've heard it can be done. As far as peripherals are concerned, though, the sky's the limit, pun intended, so feel free to use whatever kind of setup works best for you. If you're new to this kind of thing, a lot of that's just going to be a discovery process. Now, as far as installing and optimizing the game go, there are plenty of other YouTube channels out there which are going to be a lot better at walking you through the process than I would be. Huddison has some excellent videos on installing the game and controller setups, and Squirrel has a great one on optimizing the graphics. I've included links to these videos in my video description below, so if you need some help with your setup, go ahead and check them out, then meet back up with me here when you're ready. In the next video, we'll be going over some of the settings we'll want for our first flight, as well as setting up our aircraft and then planning that flight. I hope to see you there. Until then, ciao.